The summer sky above New York City turned black at exactly 2:47 in the afternoon. It was not a cloud. It was not an eclipse. It was something that no human being had ever seen before. A ship the size of Manhattan floated silently above the city, blocking out the sun and casting the entire island into shadow. Within minutes, reports flooded in from every corner of the world. London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, Sydney, Cairo, Paris, Berlin. Every major city on Earth had an alien ship hovering above it. There were hundreds of them. They were black as night and shaped like massive triangles. They made no sound as they hung in the sky like gods looking down at insects. General Jake stood in the underground command center beneath the Pentagon. He was 56 years old with gray hair and deep lines on his face from decades of military service. He had fought in 3 wars during his career. He had seen terrible things, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Around him, dozens of officers and technicians worked frantically at their stations, trying to make sense of what was happening. "How many ships?" Jake asked. His voice was calm even though his heart was pounding. "We count 412, sir," a young officer replied. "They appeared simultaneously all over the planet. No warning. Our satellites didn't detect them until they were already here." Jake stared at the massive display screen showing a map of the world. Red dots marked the location of each alien vessel. The planet looked like it had a disease. He thought about his daughter in Chicago and his in Seattle. He wondered if he would ever see them again. The door behind him opened and a woman walked in. Doctor was 42 years old with short brown hair and glasses. She was the nation's leading physicist, and she had been working on a secret project for the past 15 years, a project that almost nobody knew about. She walked up to Jake and handed him a tablet. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," she said. "Same message in every language on Earth. They've been studying us for a long time." Jake looked at the tablet and read the message. It was simple and direct. The aliens called themselves the Empire. They had conquered over 300 worlds across the galaxy. Earth was now part of their territory. Humanity had 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. If they refused, they would begin destroying cities until compliance was achieved. Resistance was pointless. Every species they had encountered had submitted. Humanity would be no different. Jake set down the tablet and looked at, "What do we know about their weapons?" "Plasma-based energy weapons," replied. "Extremely powerful. Our initial scans show their ships are protected by some kind of energy shield. Conventional weapons won't even scratch them." "And our project, is it ready?" Nodded slowly. "We've been preparing for this possibility for over 100 years, Jake. Ever since we recovered that probe in 1947, we knew they would come eventually, and we've been getting ready." The story of human preparation had begun long before Jake was born. In 1947, an alien probe had crashed in the desert of New Mexico. The government had recovered it and hidden it away. Scientists spent decades studying its technology. They learned about energy shields. They learned about faster-than-light travel. They learned that humanity was not alone in the universe and that the universe was a dangerous place. But the most important thing they learned was how to hide. The aliens who had sent that probe were scanning the galaxy for intelligent life. They were looking for new worlds to conquer, so humanity made a decision. They would pretend to be primitive. They would hide their true capabilities. They would prepare in secret for the day when the conquerors finally arrived. Every major government on Earth was part of the deception. They fought wars against each other on the surface while secretly working together underground. They built weapons that no alien scanner could detect. They developed technology that they never revealed to the public. They waited. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked down at the blue planet below. He was tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. He had led over 40 successful invasions during his career. This one would be the easiest of all. His intelligence reports showed that Earth's inhabitants were primitive and divided. They fought among themselves constantly. They had nuclear weapons but nothing that could threaten his fleet. They would surrender within a day. The deadline passed. No surrender came. Was not concerned. This happened sometimes. Some species needed to be taught a lesson before they would submit. He gave the order to begin the orbital bombardment. His ships targeted New York City first. Massive plasma cannons powered up and fired beams of green energy down toward the surface. In the underground command center, Jake watched the display screen. The plasma beams descended from orbit like pillars of fire. They were going to hit the city in seconds. Millions of people would die. Then something impossible happened. The plasma beams hit an invisible barrier about 10 miles above the city. The energy scattered in all directions like water hitting a wall. The city below was untouched. The same thing happened in London, in Tokyo, in every city that tried to attack. Doctor smiled for the first time that day. "The quantum displacement fields are holding," she said. "They can't touch us." Commander stared at his tactical display in shock. This was not possible. His weapons had failed. His sensors had detected nothing. These primitive humans had technology that could block plasma weapons. How? Where had it come from? Jake picked up a secure communication device. His hand was steady now. The fear was gone, replaced by cold determination. He spoke 4 words that would change the history of the galaxy. Operation Blackout is go. Across the planet, hidden doors began to open. Secret bases that had been buried for decades came to life. Weapons that no alien had ever seen began to power up. Humanity had spent over 100 years preparing for this moment. They had hidden everything. They had waited patiently. They had let them think they were weak. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humanity really was. In the skies above Nevada, the first human fighters rose from underground hangars. They were sleek and black and completely invisible to sensors. In their weapons bays, they carried missiles designed specifically to penetrate alien shields. The pilots inside them were the best humanity had to offer. They had trained their whole lives for this day. The Empire had invaded Earth expecting easy prey. They had found something else entirely. They had found a species that had been preparing for war since before any of them were born. A species that did not know how to surrender. A species that would make them pay for every drop of human blood they had spilled. They did not know it yet, but they had just made the worst mistake in the history of their empire. Lieutenant Danny had waited his entire life for this moment. He was 31 years old and had been training since he was 18. He had never told his family what he really did. They thought he worked at a boring government office in Washington. They had no idea that he spent his days flying experimental aircraft in an underground facility beneath the Nevada desert. Now he was strapped into the cockpit of a Phantom-class stealth fighter, rising through a hidden tunnel toward the open sky. His squadron of 12 fighters followed behind him. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small city. Each pilot knew they might not come back. "All units, this is," Danny said into his radio. "Stay in formation, stay invisible. We hit them hard and we hit them fast. No mercy. These things killed millions of people today. Now we make them pay." The fighters burst out of the ground and climbed straight up into the atmosphere. The patrol ships never saw them coming. Danny lined up his first target, a medium-sized alien vessel that was scanning the desert below. He pressed the firing button. A missile streaked away from his fighter, punched through the alien shield like it was made of paper, and detonated inside the ship. The vessel exploded in a ball of orange fire. Across the world, similar scenes were playing out. In Russia, Captain commanded a battery of surface-to-orbit missiles hidden in the mountains. Her team had been waiting underground for 15 years, maintaining the weapons, running drills, never knowing if they would actually need to use them. Now the moment had come. She gave the order to fire. 20 missiles rose into the sky on pillars of flame. They climbed higher and higher until they reached the alien ships hovering in orbit above Moscow. The warheads were electromagnetic pulse devices designed to overload alien systems. When they detonated, 3 destroyers went completely dark. Their lights went out. Their engines died. The massive ships began to fall from the sky like stones. Commander watched his tactical display with growing horror. Red warnings flashed everywhere. He had lost 17 ships in the first hour of combat. 17 ships against a species that was supposed to be primitive. His communications officer reported that similar losses were happening all over the planet. The humans were fighting back everywhere, and they were winning. "This is impossible," whispered. "Our scouts observed this world for decades. They had nothing. No advanced technology, no space fleet, nothing." His second-in-command, a younger officer named, studied the incoming data with confusion on his gray face. "Commander, their weapons are targeting our shield frequencies with perfect accuracy. They know exactly how to hurt us. They have studied us." Felt something he had never felt before in his long military career. He felt afraid. In the Pentagon Command Center, Doctor watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. She had devoted her entire adult life to this project. She had missed birthdays and holidays. She had never married or had children. She had sacrificed everything to prepare humanity for this moment, and now it was working. She picked up a microphone and began broadcasting on a frequency that the aliens could detect. Her voice went out to every ship in Earth's orbit. "Attention, fleet. My name is Doctor. I represent the people of Earth. I want to explain something to you so that you understand what is happening." On his bridge, Commander listened to the human female speak. Her voice was calm and almost friendly. It made his blood run cold. "Your empire has conquered 300 worlds," continued. "You have done this because every species you encountered was unprepared. They did not see you coming. They could not fight back, but Earth is different. We have known about you for over 100 years. We found one of your probes. We studied it. We learned everything about your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses." Paused to let her words sink in. "We chose to hide. We let you think we were primitive. We let your scouts report that we were an easy target. We wanted you to come here. We wanted you to be confident. We wanted you to underestimate us. And you did exactly what we expected." General Jake stood beside her, listening. He had known for 20 years. He had never heard her speak like this before. Her voice was like ice. "Every war in human history has been practice," said. "We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We have perfected the art of destruction. We have created weapons that can crack planets in half. We have soldiers who will fight to the last breath. We do not surrender. We do not submit. We are not like the other species you have conquered." She took a deep breath before delivering her final message. "You made a mistake coming here, Commander. You should have left us alone. Now you will face the consequences. We are going to destroy your fleet. Then we are going to find and then we are going to show the entire galaxy what happens when you threaten the people of Earth." Cut the transmission. Around her, the command center was silent. Every officer was staring at her. She had just declared war on an empire that spanned hundreds of star systems, and nobody doubted that she meant every word. Outside, the battle continued. Human fighters swarmed the alien ships like angry hornets. Missiles rose from hidden bases on every continent. Ships that they had never detected emerged from secret facilities beneath the oceans. The defense grid that humanity had hidden in orbit for 40 years came online, filling the space around Earth with deadly satellites. Commander gave the order to retreat. His fleet had lost over 100 ships in just 6 hours. More were being destroyed every minute. The humans were everywhere. They were relentless. They did not stop to celebrate their victories. They did not pause to accept surrenders. They simply kept fighting. As his flagship turned away from Earth and began accelerating toward deep space, sent an emergency message to he warned them that something terrible had happened. He warned them that the humans were not what they appeared to be. He warned them that the Empire had awakened something that should have been left sleeping. The last thing he saw before entering faster-than-light travel was the image of Earth on his display screen. The blue planet was surrounded by the burning wreckage of his fleet. It looked peaceful from this distance, beautiful even. But now knew the truth. That peaceful blue world was home to the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen, and they were very, very angry. The hunt was about to begin. The fleet ran like wounded animals. What had started as 400 warships was now less than 150. They fled toward Jupiter, where a staging base waited in orbit around one of the giant planet's moons. Commander stood on his damaged bridge, surrounded by the smell of smoke and the cries of wounded crew members. He had never lost a battle before. He had never even come close to losing. Now his fleet was crippled and running for its life. But the humans did not let them run. Captain Ben stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, the first faster-than-light warship ever built by human hands. He was 44 years old with a calm face and steady hands. He had spent the last 10 years commanding this ship in secret, training his crew for a war that might never come. Now that war was here, and he was ready. The Defiance had been built inside a hollowed-out asteroid between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. It was completely hidden from alien sensors. Beside it, 12 sister ships had been constructed over the past 2 decades. Each one was crewed by volunteers who had left their old lives behind. They had said goodbye to their families and disappeared into the black void of space. They had become ghosts, waiting for the moment when humanity would need them. That moment had arrived. "All ships, this is Captain," Ben said into the fleet-wide channel. "The enemy is retreating toward Jupiter. We will not allow them to escape. We will not allow them to warn their empire. We will hunt them down and we will destroy them. For Earth, for humanity, for everyone they killed today." The 13 human warships accelerated into the darkness of space. They were smaller than the vessels but far more advanced. Human engineers had taken alien technology and improved it. They had combined it with human creativity and ingenuity. The result was something that had never faced before. The running battle lasted for 3 days. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, struck hard, and vanished again before they could respond. Alien vessels exploded one after another. Commander watched his fleet shrink with each passing hour. He tried every tactic he knew. He laid traps. He sent decoys. He split his forces. Nothing worked. The humans anticipated every move. By the time the survivors reached Jupiter, only 68 ships remained. The staging base they had hoped would save them was already burning. A human strike team had arrived first and destroyed it with nuclear weapons. There was nowhere left to run. Sergeant Maria Santos led the boarding party onto his flagship. She was 35 years old with dark hair and eyes that had seen too much violence. She had grown up in a poor neighborhood in Los Angeles. She had joined the Marines at 18 to escape poverty. She had quickly proven herself to be one of the most capable soldiers in the entire military. When the secret recruitment officers had approached her 5 years ago, she had not hesitated to volunteer. Now she moved through the alien corridors with her team of 12 Marines. They wore powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any normal human. Their weapons fired rounds designed to pierce alien body armor. They communicated through implants in their skulls, sharing information instantly without speaking. The soldiers they encountered were unprepared. These aliens had spent centuries conquering weaker species. They had never faced an enemy that fought back with such ferocity. They expected their victims to cower and beg. Instead, the humans attacked with cold efficiency. Maria and her team killed everything that moved. They showed no hesitation. They felt no pity. Maria had seen the footage from the initial attack on Earth. She had watched cities burn. She had seen children running in terror. She had heard the screams. Now she made the aliens pay for every life they had taken. The fighting through the ship took 4 hours. When it was over, Maria stood before the sealed doors of the command bridge. Her armor was covered in alien blood. Her rifle was hot from constant firing. Behind her, only 8 of her 12 Marines remained standing. The others had given their lives to reach this point. "Blow the doors," Maria ordered. Explosives shattered the heavy metal barriers. Maria stepped through the smoke and found Commander waiting for her. He stood in the center of his ruined bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his officers. He had a weapon in his hand, but he did not raise it. "Human," said. His voice translator made his words sound flat and mechanical. "I wish to surrender. The Empire will pay any ransom for my safe return. We will negotiate. We will make peace. We will give you whatever you want." Maria looked at him without expression. She thought about all the species they had enslaved. She thought about all the worlds they had destroyed. She thought about how many times this commander had stood over conquered peoples and demanded their submission. "Did you give them the chance to surrender?" Maria asked. "All those worlds you conquered, did you let them negotiate?" Said nothing. His large black eyes blinked rapidly. "I watched your ships burn New York," Maria continued. Her voice was quiet but filled with cold fury. "I saw the videos of people dying in the streets, children, families. You killed them without warning, without mercy. And now you want mercy from us." She raised her rifle and pointed it at his chest. "My people have a saying, Commander. You reap what you sow. Your empire planted death across the galaxy. Now it's harvest time." Maria pulled the trigger. Back on Earth, General Jake received the news that the alien fleet had been completely destroyed. Not a single enemy ship had escaped to warn the humanity had won the first battle, but Jake knew this was only the beginning. In his command center, Doctor was already planning the next phase. They had captured alien navigation data. They knew where the Empire was located. They knew the routes to their colonies and there. "How long until we can launch the expedition?" Jake asked. Looked up from her displays. Her eyes were hard with determination. 3 months. We're already building more ships, recruiting more soldiers. The whole planet is mobilizing." Jake nodded slowly. 3 months ago, he had thought humanity might not survive the day. Now they were preparing to invade an alien empire that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years. The hunters had become the hunted. And humanity was just getting started. 6 months had passed since the invasion of Earth. In that time, humanity had transformed itself into a war machine unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Factories worked day and night building ships and weapons. Volunteers lined up by the millions to join the military. Scientists pushed the boundaries of what was possible, creating new technologies at an incredible pace. The entire species had united behind a single purpose: to make sure that no one would ever threaten Earth again. Admiral Lisa stood on the bridge of the USS Reckoning, the largest warship humanity had ever built. She was 43 years old, the daughter of immigrants who had come to America with nothing. She had risen through the ranks through sheer talent and determination. Now she commanded a fleet of 200 human warships, and they had just arrived at the heart of the Empire. Prime hung in space before them like a jewel. It was a beautiful world, covered in vast oceans and green continents. Cities glittered on its surface, home to billions of aliens. For thousands of years, this planet had been the center of an empire that had crushed hundreds of civilizations beneath its heel. Its people had never known war on their own soil. They had never faced an enemy at their doorstep. That was about to change. Surrounding the planet was the largest defensive force they had ever assembled. Over 2,000 warships formed a wall between the human fleet and there. Hundreds of orbital defense stations bristled with weapons. The Emperor had called every ship from every corner of his territory. He had stripped his colonies bare to protect the heart of his empire. It would not be enough. The Emperor's face appeared on Lisa's display screen. He was old by standards, his gray skin wrinkled and spotted. His black eyes were filled with fear, though he tried to hide it behind a mask of dignity. "Human Admiral," the Emperor said through his translator, "we offer you peace. We offer you territory. We will give you 10 worlds of your choosing. We will share our technology. We will make your species partners in our empire instead of enemies. There is no need for more bloodshed." Lisa looked at him without expression. She thought about her grandmother, who had told her stories of suffering and survival. She thought about all the species they had conquered, all the cultures they had destroyed, all the lives they had ended. The Emperor was offering partnership now because he was afraid. He had never offered partnership to his victims when he was strong. "Your empire invaded Earth without warning," Lisa replied. Her voice was calm and cold. "You killed millions of our people. You intended to enslave our entire species, and now you want to negotiate." The Emperor spread his hands in a gesture of appeal. "That was a mistake. We did not understand what you were. We thought you were weak. We were wrong, but we can move past this. We can build something new together." Lisa shook her head slowly. "You don't understand, do you? We're not here to negotiate. We're not here to make deals. We're here to end your empire forever. We're here to free every species you have enslaved. And we're here to make an example of you so that no one in this galaxy ever thinks about threatening Earth again." She cut the transmission. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for battle. Dr. Price, the weapons designer who had created most of humanity's arsenal, stood at the tactical station. He was a quiet man of 60 who had devoted his life to building instruments of destruction. He had hoped they would never need to be used, but he felt no hesitation now. They had shown what they were capable of. They had shown no mercy. They deserved none in return. "Admiral," said, "the infiltration teams report they are in position." Lisa nodded. Over the past month, human special forces had been secretly inserting onto the orbital defense stations. They had posed as workers, as refugees, as traders. They had planted devices on every single station. The security forces had never detected them. Humans were very good at hiding. "Activate the singularity bombs," Lisa ordered. Across the defensive ring around Prime, small devices came to life. They were no larger than a football, but they contained technology that bent the laws of physics. When they activated, they created microscopic black holes that existed for just a fraction of a second before evaporating. That fraction of a second was enough. The black holes consumed everything around them before vanishing. In an instant, every orbital defense station around Prime disappeared. Over 100 massive installations simply ceased to exist. The defensive ring that the Emperor had thought impenetrable was gone. The way to his planet was open. The fleet charged forward in desperate fury, 2,000 ships against 200. They had overwhelming numbers. They had fought thousands of battles over the centuries. They believed they could still win. They were wrong. Human ships moved with perfect coordination, guided by artificial intelligence systems that could process millions of calculations per second. They struck at weak points and vanished before counterattacks could land. Their weapons tore through shields like they were made of glass. Human missiles carried warheads that disrupted alien engines, leaving ships dead in space. Human fighters swarmed around the larger vessels, picking off weapons and sensors with surgical precision. The battle lasted 9 hours. When it was over, not a single warship remained operational. The space around the planet was filled with wreckage and bodies. The once mighty fleet of the Empire had been completely destroyed. On the surface of Prime, the population watched in horror as human landing craft descended from the sky. Millions of soldiers, supported by armored vehicles and combat drones, began the ground invasion. The planetary defense forces fought back, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Human soldiers advanced through their cities with relentless efficiency. They showed no fear. They showed no hesitation. Within 3 days, the capital city had fallen. Within a week, organized resistance had collapsed across the planet. The Emperor was captured trying to flee in a private shuttle. He was brought before Admiral Lisa in chains. Lisa looked at him for a long moment. The once proud ruler of 300 worlds was now a broken old man, trembling with fear. She thought about what to do with him. Execution would be simple. Imprisonment would be easy. But humanity had other plans. "You will live," Lisa said finally. "You will watch as we dismantle everything you built. You will see your empire fall apart. You will witness the freedom of every species you enslaved. And you will spend the rest of your life knowing that your own arrogance brought this upon your people." The Emperor began to weep. Behind Lisa, Dr. Price watched silently. The reckoning was complete. The empire was finished. Now came the harder task, deciding what to build in its place. Humanity had proven it could destroy. The question now was whether it could also create something better. 1 year had passed since the invaded Earth. In that time, the galaxy had been transformed. The empire that had dominated hundreds of star systems for thousands of years no longer existed. Its military had been destroyed. Its leadership had been captured. Its colonies had been liberated. And in its place, something new was being built. Ambassador Tor stood at the podium of the newly formed Galactic Council. He was 38 years old, a former diplomat who had spent his career negotiating peace treaties and trade agreements. Now, he had been given the most important job in human history, representing Earth to the rest of the galaxy. Before him sat representatives from over 300 species. These were the civilizations that they had conquered and enslaved over the centuries. Some had been under alien rule for so long that they had forgotten what freedom felt like. Others still bore fresh wounds from brutal occupation. All of them had watched in amazement as humanity rose up and destroyed their oppressors in less than a year. Many of them were afraid. They had expected the humans to become the new masters. They had expected one empire to be replaced by another. That was how the galaxy had always worked. The strong ruled. The weak obeyed. There was no other way. But humanity had surprised them. "We did not come to the stars to conquer," said. His voice was calm and sincere, translated simultaneously into hundreds of alien languages. "We did not destroy the empire so that we could take its place. We fought because we had no choice. We fought because they attacked our home. We fought because we refused to be slaves." He paused and looked around the chamber at the many strange faces watching him. "But now the fighting is over. Now we must decide what kind of galaxy we want to live in, and humanity has made its choice. We choose freedom. We choose cooperation. We choose to build a future where no species has to fear conquest or enslavement, where every civilization can develop in its own way, where differences are celebrated instead of destroyed." In the audience, a representative from a species called the raised a tentacle to speak. They had been among the first to be conquered by the over 2,000 years ago. Their culture had been nearly wiped out. Their population had been reduced to a fraction of what it once was. "How can we trust you?" they asked. "You have shown what you can do. You destroyed an empire in months. What stops you from doing to us what they did?" Nodded at the question. He had expected it. "You're right to be cautious. Trust must be earned, not demanded. So let me tell you what we have already done. We have withdrawn our military forces from every liberated world. We have shared our technology freely with any species that asked. We have taken nothing for ourselves except the materials needed to rebuild our own planet. And we have returned them to their under strict supervision, but we have not exterminated them." This last point caused murmurs throughout the chamber. Many species had expected humanity to destroy them completely. Some had hoped for it. They had committed terrible crimes across the galaxy. Genocide, slavery, the destruction of entire cultures. Many felt they deserved extinction. But humanity had chosen differently. General Jake sat in the Earth delegation, watching speak. The old soldier had resisted this approach at first. After everything they had done, he had wanted revenge. He had wanted to make them pay for every life they had taken, but Doctor had convinced him otherwise. "If we exterminate them, we become them," had said during their long debates. "We prove that the galaxy runs on nothing but power and violence. But if we show mercy, if we prove that strength can be used for more than destruction, we change everything. We give the galaxy a new example to follow. Jake had eventually agreed. It was the harder path, but it was the right one. Continued his speech. We are not perfect. No species is. We have our own history of violence and cruelty. We have made terrible mistakes, but we have also learned from those mistakes. We have grown. We have become better. And we believe that every species deserves the chance to grow as well. He gestured toward the representatives around the chamber. This council is not a human creation. It belongs to all of you. We will participate as equals, not as rulers. We will contribute our resources and our knowledge, but we will not dictate how you should live. The decisions about your futures will be made by you, not by us. Over the following months, the Galactic Council began to take shape. Representatives worked together to create a charter that protected the rights of all species. Trade agreements were negotiated that benefited everyone fairly. A peacekeeping force was established, made up of volunteers from dozens of worlds, trained to protect the weak from the strong. Humanity played a key role, but always as a partner rather than a master. Human scientists shared their technology openly. Human doctors helped fight diseases on dozens of worlds. Human engineers helped rebuild infrastructure that they had destroyed or neglected. And human soldiers stood ready to defend anyone who was threatened. But there was always an unspoken understanding beneath the surface. Everyone in the galaxy knew what humanity was capable of. They had seen the destruction of the fleet. They had watched an empire fall in less than a year. They knew that the friendly humans who offered partnership and cooperation were the same beings who had shown no mercy to those who threatened them. General Jake gave the closing address at the Council's first anniversary celebration. He was 60 now, tired and gray, but his voice was still strong. 1 year ago, they came to Earth expecting easy prey, Jake said. They found something else. They found a species that had been preparing for their arrival for over a century. They found warriors who did not know how to surrender. They found scientists who turned their own technology against them. They found a planet united in defense of its children. He looked around the chamber at the hundreds of species that now worked together in peace. But that is not who we want to be remembered as. We do not want to be remembered only as destroyers. We want to be remembered as builders, as healers, as friends. We want to be remembered as the species that helped create something beautiful from the ashes of something terrible. Jake paused and took a deep breath before delivering his final words. To anyone in this galaxy who threatens the innocent, who preys upon the weak, who believes that might makes right, remember what happened to the... Remember that humanity is watching. Remember that we do not forgive, we do not forget, and we do not lose. He softened his voice. But to everyone else, to all the species who want to live in peace, who want to grow and learn and explore the wonders of this universe, humanity offers its hand in friendship. We will stand beside you. We will protect you. We will walk into the future together. In the audience, Doctor wiped a tear from her eye. She had devoted her life to preparing for the worst. Now she could finally start building for the best. The galaxy had changed forever, and at the center of that change stood a small blue planet called Earth, home to a species that had once seemed so primitive and weak. The wolves had chosen to guard the flock, and the flock had never been safer.